Welcome to Highly Sensitive, Happily Married, the podcast that teaches you to not only have an easier marriage as a sensitive woman, but to have one that feels more amazing by the day. Where you'll hear relatable stories, love advice that works, and coaching on how to have a marriage where feeling upset and disconnected is a thing of the past, and where instead a sense of loving connection and even fun and lightness is the norm. I'm Hannah Brooks, highly sensitive person, love expert, and marriage coach, and I'm so happy to be on this journey with you. Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 117. Today's a special episode because we have a special guest. My client, Luanne, who wrapped up with me some months ago, is going to share her story of moving out of overcare and really a sense of burden and annoyance and negativity in her relationship and just in herself to lots of enjoyment and peace and a sense of freedom, as she calls it. And of course, feeling good in her relationship with her now fiance and looking forward to their future together. I think that the way Luanne speaks, you'll find is really relatable. So I think you're going to really resonate with various aspects of her story and what she had to work through and how she worked through these things in herself and with her partner. So listen with your ears perked for insights and gems of wisdom. And before we dive in, I want to make sure to remind you that Treasured, my coaching program, now the only way to work with me, is currently enrolling. So if you too want to make the kinds of changes in your marriage, in your life that Luanne has made, come join us. The link to learn more about Treasured and sign up is in the show notes, or go over to www.lifeisworthloving.com/treasured. And with no further ado, here is Luanne. Well, Luanne, it's such a pleasure and an honor to have you on today. I know that your story is going to help a lot of other highly sensitive women. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
So we ended our work together some months ago at this point. And you told me after we wrapped up, I feel so much more at peace than I have ever felt in my life. I know how to cultivate the inner peace that I want to feel every day, no matter what is happening. My partner and I are working together as a team, and the days are brighter and lighter. Those feelings of loving being together have come back, but in a stronger and more confident way. So I just remember loving hearing that and loving hearing so much about how things had gotten just so much better for you and your now fiance. But it wasn't like that when you first came to me. So I would love to hear what things were like in your relationship and in yourself before we started working together. Like, how were you feeling in your relationship?
So my boyfriend at the time, now my fiance, we had been together for 10 years, and we were very busy people. We had kids who were teenagers and, college kids and, this big social life. And we were, going to our jobs every day, managing all of that. And then when the pandemic started, we started working remotely from, a remote beach house that I have. And, we decided to move there. And then we thought this is going to be great. And we got to this beautiful, wonderful place. But everything was just weird. It was just the two of us. We didn't have friends here. Our family wasn't here. We were working remote, but we were with each other 24/7. And it was just hard. And, I was, expecting like everything would be amazing, wonderful, but it wasn't. We were kind of in shock, and we were, we were both a kind of a mess and had different ways of handling all of this. He was withdrawing, and I was like criticizing him all of the time, and just keeping track of what he was doing all day long. And I guess that's when I started listening to your podcast and realizing that I'm this highly sensitive person. I had never heard that term before, but it explained a lot of things about me. Like, whoa. So that's when I decided, after many months of just listening to your podcasts, it had gotten to the point where just like, I think I need some help here. So
I remember you said it like just felt like there was too much negativity and you felt like you were losing the person you fell in love with.
Yeah. And I was losing myself. I was confused about what was going on.
Yeah. And what do you feel like you were wanting then, but couldn't seem to have or feel?
I guess I was, I was putting so much pressure on him and myself, because I was thinking, we should be happy all the time. We should be like more happy. We should be getting involved in something. I was just, having this fear, like, what are we going to do with ourselves? We're, getting closer to our own like retirement age, but we can't even, figure out how to, be together all day. So I was just getting really scared about what was going on. And I was having all of these like, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. He should be so all of those shoulds popping up all day long.
Totally. I remember that.
Yeah. And then, so, I was thinking, we should go out and make friends. We should be volunteering. We should be filling our lives with whatever. And then we were just, I was having so many questions about like, what are we meant to be doing? Is that going to be okay? Are we going to make it?
Yeah. I remember how concerned you were about your future together. Yeah. Well, so I remember how fun it was on our last or second to last call, where we looked at, how things had shifted over our 6 months together. And really, because one of the things that I like to do with clients is, like we did, is set some goals in the beginning. And usually there's about 15 or so. And then look at them at the end and see how much progress you've made. And you had just made such huge progress on all of your goals. And I mean, there were still some places where you wanted to keep working, which is only normal and natural. But it was just so fun to just see that. Like, you're like, woo, like checking off all the boxes. And so I'm curious, how are things now with your fiance? I mean, that's one of the pieces of news, right?
Yeah. Well, things are going really well. I mean, we're getting married in 2 weeks, so that's been taking up a lot of our time just planning for that. But I think my expectations are different, and I'm just more realistic. Like, I have a better understanding of myself and what it means to be happy, and things like I don't need to be happy all of the time. I just want to have more of that feeling of inner peace and contentment, and it doesn't have to be manifest itself in some joy, happiness constantly. It's more just my own ability to bring myself to that feeling of inner peace when when my little lizard brain gets in the way of things, and when my other the other parts of my personality step in, and I'm able to just have a lot more control over my own thoughts and feelings now.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can leave my partner, my fiance be. I can leave him alone and just let him, do his own thing. It doesn't have to be constantly, me wanting to change what he's doing like
Mm-hmm.
it had been in the past. I felt like um, I was, when you're together so much, I was wanting to take control of everything he was doing too. And now I don't. I can just, be, I can actually take his strengths, which some of them are things that um, I've learned from him, you know,
Mm-hmm.
how to be more relaxed during the
Yes.
day, how to not put all of this pressure on ourselves to, be busy constantly.
Right.
So,
I remember one of the things that you said kind of early on is like he would just like sit around and play guitar and you'd be like feel a little resentful. It's like, how come he gets to
yeah,
do that? Right? Like, what about me?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
He,
yeah.
yeah, he's just much better at just, not having, I mean, I'm a list maker. So I've
Uh-huh.
always felt like I have to be constantly checking things off the list and achieving things. And,
Yes.
you know, I can't rest until I've done everything on my list.
Yeah.
And those things were really getting in the way of me being more content and happy. So,
Yes.
we worked on a lot of that.
Yeah, that was that taskmaster
Yeah.
inside of you. And it was interesting because I remember how, part of what was going on there is like you had this taskmaster inside of you that was always like, you got to do this, you gotta, have to, should, right? Do all the things.
Hmm.
But then you also would look over at him and be like, why isn't he doing this? Like, why isn't he taking initiative?
Yeah.
And kind of
Yeah.
feeling like you like needed to get him to do it. And you even said you needed to mother him, right?
Right.
And then, of course, you felt burdened, right? And
Right.
because you also then weren't allowing yourself much fun or pleasure.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and I think backing up to some of the other things that were
Yeah,
maybe getting
yeah.
in my way is just I have this picky thing, like the highly sensitive part of me that's always looking for the flaws.
Mm-hmm.
So I've really learned to recognize that, the flaw site part of me that's always hunting for, something that needs to be clean, something that needs to be fixed. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it would be something my fiance was doing or something, that wasn't perfect in the house. So that little part of me, I've really gotten more under control. I can let things go more. And I know that, part of it's just, being able to work with my own thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and be more self-aware of those kinds of things that get in the way of
Yeah.
just being able to have honestly, now that my children are all grown and gone and I have my job is not as busy as it once was when I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to climb a career ladder.
Yeah.
I want to take advantage of that and
Yes.
um, work in more time for my own self-care. That's a really important thing for me
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And like diving into some of that more in depth in a minute, I'm curious for you, like, well, one of the things you just said before we started recording was you and your fiance are having a really nice life together here now. Um, and the words that have stood out that you've used in the past are like just the word enjoying, right? Like enjoying each other.
Yeah,
Which I
yeah,
think is like one of those things that's like it sounds kind of simple, but for so many people it's elusive, right? And it certainly was elusive for you when you were before you started working with me in that time period after moving to the beach house, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just
Yeah.
enjoying yourself too, right? Like enjoying him, enjoying being together, enjoying doing things together, but also enjoying yourself. Now, I want to say one thing, like as a caveat, I know that you've just been through the death of a loved one in your family,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
that certainly has been a big, a hard experience for you. But I still hear you, like, even with that having just recently happened, I still hear you talking about enjoyment and peace and all these things that for so many people can feel elusive.
When I wake up in the morning, one of the first things that happens is he'll go and make the coffee every day. And, I'll be the one, laying there in bed for a few more moments. And, I start my day just going, wow, oh my gosh, I have this guy who every morning will get up for me and make me an awesome cup of coffee. And, I just start with that thought and like, okay, I'm going to make today another really nice day. And it can just be a peaceful day. We will, if it's nice, we will go for a walk together. And, that was, one of the things that was a burden before. We would go for a walk and I would be thinking, things like, why isn't he talking to me? Why
Yeah.
isn't he saying anything? What's going on in his head?
Yeah.
And now I just go for a walk with him and I look around and I think about how beautiful it is. And, we'll comment on the birds and, how, is the ocean calm or is the ocean rough? And now I'll just enjoy that he wants to take a walk with me. And I'll
Yes.
think, man, this guy wants to be with me every day and he really enjoys taking a walk with me. So,
Yes.
that's kind of how our day starts off. And, then we have our jobs going on. So we're doing that and making our meals together. And we're talking about what we're going to do at the end of the day. We might be able to play a game or something like that, or listen to some music. So it's all just like really nice. And I think about, wow, this is somebody who he doesn't mind being with just me. And
He doesn't
I'm
mind.
yeah, I'm enough for him and he's enough for me. And I don't feel this pressure anymore, like, oh, we got to go, do all this stuff and make friends and everything. That can come, but it's not like this. I don't feel this burning desire to, recreate the busy life that we used to have. So,
totally. And what about that, like, concern for the future? How is that different?
Now that we've kind of settled into a better way of being, and I know that we have the tools to really think things through. We talk about things together and we do planning for the next weeks and months, and we talk about how much we want to take on or how little. And so we're a really good team, just kind of sketching out the future. And we know that there may be different hobbies that in the future we might get to, but I don't feel this pressure the way I was before.
Yeah, totally. Amazing.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about that pressure that you were putting on yourself. And specifically, I've talked about it on the podcast as overcare, where it's like very common for highly sensitive women in particular to kind of have this overcare mentality, meaning, putting a lot of pressure on yourself to make, in this case, your fiance happy, like it was your job. And also this can also be like taking care of all the things around the house, right? But very often it's also caretaking other people's feelings. And I remember how that felt to you, like it was like your job, right? Which then had you feeling burdened or annoyed, right? When he wasn't happy, because you also, as you mentioned earlier, you thought he should be happy and you should be happy. So I'm just curious, like, how did this, I need to be responsible for everyone, or because it also extended out to your family. I need to be responsible for them and make them happy. How did that show up in your relationship with him, but also anyone else in your life?
Yeah, that was something I didn't realize. I guess it had been part of me for my entire life, that I didn't realize that it was a thing that, was a highly sensitive person thing that didn't have to be like that. It's like I assumed that was just the way it was for me, that I was going to always have to be this person who was always having to make sure everybody else was happy, sometimes to the point where I would be burdened and unhappy.
Right. It made you unhappy, right? When you were thinking you needed to make everyone else happy. And, because that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself, right? Especially when, like, the reality of being a human being is we can't always be happy, right? So if we're constantly trying to make other people happy, we're doing something that's kind of impossible.
Yeah, and you taught me through the coaching that I really don't have control over anybody else's, what's going on in their head. I don't have any control over anything other than my own thoughts and feelings. So, and I was giving, like, him and other people their own moods too much power over me and my thoughts. So, I mean, I could go from, being in a good mood myself to having other people's moods bring me down. And then I feel like, gosh, that's not fair.
Yes.
One example that I think was coming up that really helped me was the summer we were planning a big family vacation with my kids, who are all, they're grown-ups now, they're in their 20s, and my boyfriend, who's not my kid's father. So I was really nervous about the whole trip, and I was afraid of, that the trip would be hard and that we wouldn't have fun and all of this. So you kind of helped me, like, plan for, run through some scenarios of how that might be like. And so I was working through the trip on, breaking those thought cycles that I get into. And I actually, told everyone, like, okay, I'm not going to be the mother on this trip. I'm not going to be mothering people. I'm going to be, you all are going to help me figure out what we're going to do every day. You're going to decide what the food is. I'm going to send you shopping. I'm going to have you all make it. I'm going to have a good time.
I love it.
So I put that out at the beginning of the trip, and, they ended up being awesome. And, the nights that we were cooking food, they were cooking it and cleaning up. And I was having time to read books and, just hang out and
just enjoy yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was great because you helped me get there, because you made me realize I could do that I wasn't, that I didn't have to be everybody's mother.
Right. Well, what's so fascinating about when we get into this place, like, it's a normal place that a lot of women go into, right? This overcare place where we do believe we are the mom, like, we need to take care of everybody and do all the things and organize all of the things. And we end up sometimes doing that in our marriages too, right? With our partner.
Right.
But then, like, as your experience just so beautifully illustrates, it's like, it doesn't feel good. It feels really burdening. And then it doesn't allow you to have much fun. And it makes you annoyed, right? Because then because you're kind of feeling resentful, and then, right, like you're seeing, like in your case, you're seeing John not step up and not do all the things because you were taking them all on, right? And so, or the same with your kids, right? If you were always going in and being the one who planned all the things and made all the meals and did all the tasks, of course, they weren't necessarily going to rise up and try to do that. Right. So I thought it was so fun, especially, I mean, that was such a beautiful example of it, that vacation, but I also love how you were able to shift that in your relationship with your fiance, because it was bothering you that he wasn't stepping up as much as you. And what you ended up doing, at least what I understand, and you correct me where I'm wrong, is you started giving him more responsibility. And that led to more fun and lightness between you. And then he was able to step up because you stepped back.
Yeah. And I think, I think we've kind of settled into, what really works for us, because, he is really great at getting things done, when he knows what needs to be done. And I think, we kind of gotten into this, I would do this kind of thing where I would, in passing mention, something that might need to be done, like a chore or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'd wait, and I'd be thinking, gosh, he hasn't brought that up again. Why isn't he doing it? And
Mm-hmm.
I'd, get kind of drive myself crazy. And then when I'd bring it up, he'd be like, oh, well, you only mentioned it. We didn't actually decide when we were going to do it. So I was waiting for you to, decide. So,
Right.
So it was kind of like, okay, I got to come up with a better system. So now, when there's things to be done, we sit down and we talk, and he actually has a list of the things I'm expecting that he's going to do. And, we talk about, when they need to be done by, and then I just let him, when he's written it down on his list, I know he'll get to it when, I know he'll get to it when he wants to, and I don't have to say anymore, like, why aren't you doing that now? Because I know he will.
Yes.
So it's kind of like he has his own system for deciding when to do something, and I don't need to mother him and tell him when,
Totally. That's so good. And it sounds like it took some leading, like making some conscious choices in yourself, and also maybe leading this a little bit, right? Like coming up with a system, but then it also meant like leaning into trusting that he would step up, and keeping yourself from kind of pushing him on it, and then watching how he actually did it, and then being able to settle more into, oh, this actually works, and I don't have to mother him, and he does step up, right? Helping him be more.
He's a different person than me. I mean, like he, honest to goodness, does not see things that, so I can't sit there and think, I can't believe he doesn't see that whatever over there is dirty. He really doesn't. So I have to tell, I realize I have to tell him, hey, that floor is dirty. I'm hoping that you'll clean the floor and I'll do this other thing.
Yes.
So, and that's like just the realizing that he doesn't notice things the way I do.
Yes,
which is perfectly fine.
And if you want it done, and you can just say something, and it's great. I love that. Such a good thing to, like, that's such an important reminder. Everybody, right? He's a different person. He doesn't see things the same. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just different.
Right.
Yeah. And learning to work with it the way you have is so amazing and so important. Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think, like, this is so important. It's just the way you were able to take more charge of yourself, and ultimately step back and let him have more responsibility. just freed you up because then you aren't, well, it's not just about letting him have more responsibility. It's like taking responsibility back over your own thoughts and your own feelings and, not continuing to think in the same ways that you were. And I know that that freed you up to have
Yes,
a lot more freedom, like peace, lightness in your life.
absolutely.
And then the other thing that you mentioned earlier that I wanted to circle back to was you really learned how to put your well-being and happiness first. So I'm curious, and you said self-care, right? And that's part of what I mean
Yeah.
there. So how did that affect your life and how did that affect your relationship?
Yeah, I'm able to be a lot more reflective of a person now. So, and it's been very helpful. It was actually really helpful, even during the more difficult times. Going through what we went through with my father's death, it was, a very hard, difficult family time going on as his health was deteriorating, and I was able to handle that situation and help my family, especially my mother, by making sure that I was giving myself the time I needed, to process the feelings and, get my own strength. I always think of the saying of put your own oxygen mask on first. So, I would make sure that I was, having enough time by myself, getting to read, getting to, just sit and have the quiet time or, take a walk by myself, all of those things that I needed to do, have a few moments during the day of peace for myself.
Yes.
So that I could think about things, just be on my own before I go back into the harder family situation that could be challenging. So I think knowing that we're all human and we all have our different reactions to things, being able to, really analyze thoughts and, be very caring of myself. I think some of the tools that you gave me, like the wink tool is a great one for that, where making my thoughts be my friend, realizing that I am my own friend, and those thoughts, even if they are negative at times, I can work with them and I can shift them into, what is the positive thing about whatever's going on, and then bring myself back to that feeling of peace, and then I can go back and be with everybody, and from a better place once I've had that opportunity to really think about my thoughts and feelings.
Yes. Yes. That's so huge for us as sensitive women. Yeah. Yeah. And I remember too, like, a minute ago, you were talking about going to read a book or going for a walk. And I remember that, well, I know you guys took daily walks together, but like doing some of these things for yourself, like especially I remember your pleasure reading, right? Like reading fiction books. It was not like doing this kind of self-care for you was not just like, oh, I was like, hey, Luanne, you should go do it. No, right? It was like, it wasn't as easy as just like snapping your fingers and then you suddenly had this great routine for yourself, right? Because because you had these old patterns. So do you want to just say one or two sentences about like what helped you be able to start taking care of yourself first instead of everybody else and everything else?
Well, I think it's the realization that when I make time for myself to do things that I enjoy, I can always come back into whatever else needs to be done or is going on from a much better place.
Yes.
Even if it's just, 15 minutes to go sit and read a book, and I'm going, aha, I'm getting to read a book right now by myself. And then I can come back into work or things with family or things with John and from a much better place.
Totally.
Whereas before I might be like, no, I got to finish this and I got to do this and I got to do all these things. And then I was ending up missing out on some of the enjoyment that actually when you fit that time in, you can do everything else so much better.
Yes, totally. You get more efficient, you get more effective, you're able to be with others in a better way. So yeah, I love that. Like it sounds like one of the things, it just took some doing it and then witnessing the results and how much better it worked for you. But it can be a challenging pattern to change, I know for sure, in our world. It's a very common one that's hard for so many people. But it was such a pleasure to watch you make that happen for yourself and how it really did affect things in such a good way. What was also really fun to watch, like it was such a great example of, as you really dove into doing this work on yourself, John also started being motivated to work on himself and grow. And I'm curious if you would share a few words about how you were part of that, like how you opened the door for that or influence.
Well, I think definitely. I was definitely something that John was aware of, that I had engaged you with the coaching for the 6 months. So he knew it was going on, and I loved sharing different pieces of it with him, and seeing where why don't you try this? Why don't you try the wink when you have these thoughts? Because he was also himself having anxiety, and he he was worried about his job. He was having his own self-doubts about his value at work when he's a remote employee. So we worked through some things together, and he was using some of the tools himself, where I would say, why don't you go take a break and think about what you're feeling, what your thoughts are, and give yourself some of that self-love. And so some of the things that I was learning with you and that I would share with him, he was trying, and then he actually did and take the initiative to get some help on his own. So he's definitely come a long way himself. And I think we're feeling really good about where we are now.
Yeah. And I love this. And one reason I wanted to ask you about that is because there are a lot of women who, when they think, when they're considering working with me, they wonder, like, how is it going to help the whole relationship, or how is it going to help him work on the relationship? And I think this is just one of many, you're just one of many examples of how, like, when we as women do start doing the work on ourselves, on the relationship, we model that, right? It's like we're leading that. We lead love. We lead self-growth, right? And it really does it often has the effect of kind of inspiring or motivating our partner to also do what work on himself. And and some people are more open to, like, hearing about the tools and learning the tools that you were learning with me. It's always so amazing to see that. And then so it goes from just you working on it and you working on the relationship in yourself to, like, you're both working side by side and making progress together, which is powerful.
Yeah. And I don't think, it's a subtle thing. Certainly, my guy's not one to sit there and read a bunch of stuff, but some of the things that I do, he doesn't even realize that it's something that I learned through my coaching. So things like I really learned to find the good in everything. So when I'm catching myself, like, having a negative thought pattern, I'm, really good now at just like going, oh, okay, this is bringing up one of those old negative thoughts. What can I do to shift it? And, it might just be like, if it's a tough or overwhelming day, like, reminding myself of the good things, like, how much, I'm loved, how much fun we have, how, how I'm with somebody who really understands me, and I'm with someone who's funny and quirky, and then those thoughts will remind me, oh, I should just go thank him. So I might just be like, oh, I just wanted to thank you for that amazing cup of coffee, and it feels good, so it's like just interweaving little light things during the day. You know, even if my initial thought was something negative, it's like, okay, but that negative thought is not doing anybody any good. So, what is something positive I can say? Like, oh, you seem really happy today, or glad to see that you're in a good mood. Isn't it a wonderful day? And just trying to find the good.
And I remember you said something. It was something that he told you. He was like, at some point, he was like, I'm so amazed by you at how positive you're being. And like, I think, tell me where I'm wrong, but he really appreciates it.
Yeah.
It brings this lightness.
I was really trying to do that even with the tough time that my family was going through. Because I would see my mother going down like the rabbit hole of the negativity of second guessing herself. What could she have done, like, to change all of the outcome of this? And so even just when the family's together, just like, all right, well, let's talk about the good memories we have, with this man, and my father, and talk about what a wonderful person he is, or he was. So I really like to try to just bring some of the positivity into the top discussions with people. And you can really do that with anyone. People love to complain all the time. and I try to be the one who will try to see the good side of everything now, and it just makes for things to be a lot nicer.
I love it. So I'm curious what you would say to a woman who wants to improve things in her marriage, but isn't sure she has much sway on her own. Like, what have you discovered about the power of one person, the woman, you, to shift things in the relationship?
As HSPs, I think we have like so much to bring to the world that we don't realize, because we are so reflective and insightful, and we really are so serious about wanting to get to a better place. So what I think, once you really learn about the internal control that we have over our own well-being, and how we can really, like, using the tools and things I learned during coaching, we have so much of an ability to become our own internal friends, and we through that you can have so much more awareness of your own thoughts and feelings, and how you can how they can bring you power into all of your relationships, and in particular your spouse, or your significant other. And you really do have a choice every day. and
Yes.
how you react to the things going on around you, and
Mm-hmm.
what you say, and how you interact with people, how you make requests of them.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start doing those things, it just naturally shifts everything. um, but I think you have to be like really committed to it and willing to do the work, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to be willing to see where you yourself may need to make changes.
Yes.
But I think as HSPs, because we have so much awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and ability to really delve into ourselves. And then, if you really do start using some of your tools, then it just naturally can rub off on other people.
Yes. So right on. Is there anything else that you want to share? Any extras, any little things we didn't talk about yet that helped you get to this much happier place? Or like any insights for other highly sensitive women who want to feel more attracted to and more love for and enjoyment of their partner?
Well, I think it's just some of the things like um, that you gave me, like the tool about the feeling tool. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
scale.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, we don't have to be happy all the time. We
Mm-hmm.
we can be neutral. We can be
Mm-hmm.
okay. And when we start dipping into the negative, the feel feelings that we don't want to have, we have control over. All right, well, I'd like to just get a little better.
Right.
I don't need to be 100% happy all the time. You said something like, how about if you were 50% happy? What if half the time you were happy and half the time you were something else? Would that be enough? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, actually that is enough. And
Mm-hmm.
that's life. We we have the ability to just really see the humanness in all of us, and that we're all human.
Mm-hmm.
We have our ups and downs, and our we have our joys and our sorrows that we're all working on together. And when it comes to your partner, that's somebody who's you've chosen each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we as HSPs, we have the power to make the most of that
Mm-hmm.
relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the partner will be grateful for it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we can really just choose every day. And that's really, I guess, the biggest thing is making the choice every day to just be grateful
Mm-hmm.
for the life and each other. And
I love that. Well,
yeah,
yeah,
whatever is going on in that day, being grateful for being alive.
yeah, yes, totally. And some of what you're talking about, like, it reminds me of, well, because I think, like, in your example, when you first came to me, it was like, it was harder to feel enjoyment of John. It was maybe even harder to feel attracted, like, because you said you felt like you were losing the person that you love. But so much of that was because, I mean, sure, he was having a hard time, and where your brain was going, right? And you were having a lot of negative
Yeah.
thoughts and feelings. And I like to call those barriers sometimes, right? Like I talk about it on
Mm-hmm.
the podcast as barriers, because when we are in that negative emotional spectrum a lot, when we are thinking negatively a lot, or in that lizard brain place a lot, it really, it's like it covers over our love and our attraction to and our enjoyment of our person.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it's not about, like, yes, I think we can cultivate for sure, we can cultivate more feelings of in loveness and attraction and all of this. And I know you did talk about feeling attracted to and attractive, by the end you were talking about that. But sometimes it's not just that. Sometimes it's as simple as getting back to more neutral, right? And then,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then what you were just saying, like feeling grateful. And like what that can do is open up that reservoir of enjoyment and love and attraction again.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So I did have one last question,
Mm-hmm.
and that is in your experience, and now this is the reason I wanted to ask you this question is sometimes I get this question from people who are considering coaching with me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and they want to know what the difference is between just listening to my podcast and actually coaching with me. And I know that you first
Mm-hmm.
found the podcast and then you started coaching with me. So I wonder if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, I think the coaching is just it's so unique because you would help guide me through exact specific things that were going on in my life at the given time.
Yes.
And you helped me learn things about myself that I didn't even realize on my
Yes.
own. You would really delve deep into some of my lifelong patterns that I've had and help
Mm-hmm.
me break through them.
Mm.
So the taskmaster and the overcare and things like that would come up a lot, and you'd go, oh, remember this, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I I do that. I'm still doing that control thing, wanting to control everything.
Mm-hmm.
Or so and I would bring things to you that were either happening at that time or going to be happening, and we'd really help me plan for specific things that were going to happen, so
Yes.
that I could be better prepared. And
Yes.
it might even be something that day. Like,
Yeah.
I think we would talk about, I guess I was feeling like at one point we were in some kind of a rut about, like, just every day we were eating and sitting on the couch and watching TV. And
Right.
you were like, well, how about if tonight you do something different? And
Mm-hmm.
I would go, okay, I'm going to do it, like, right now. So right after the call, I think I went up and I said, hey, why don't we like have a nice meal and sit at the table and put some candles on?
Yes.
Let's do it. Yeah. So it was just, things like that, that, you can never get from just the podcast,
Totally.
very targeted, unique, things. And then of course, just, all of the tools that you, have given me, I still refer back to. There's
Yes.
just so much in your materials that, are, lifelong. I have the four pillars on my refrigerator, and
Oh,
I look at them,
perfect.
like, just to remember, oh yeah, this is what we do every day,
I love that. Yes. And those
yeah,
tools aren't available on the podcast. Some of them are
yeah,
mentioned here and there, but not in the
right.
depths that you get them. Yeah. When you work with me. Yeah. Well, so amazing. Luanne, you're such a beautiful example of, putting in the time, putting in the energy and like the amazing results that come of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, did you have any last words of encouragement or anything that you'd want listeners to hear or to take from your own experience?
Well, I would just, thank you from the bottom of my heart, Hannah. I feel like you're a friend to me. You're just such a warm and loving person, and I'm I'm so proud of you that you're able to bring so much to women out there. And I'm just really been thankful that you have decided to do what you're doing and share that with all of the women out there. And we're all in this together. I think if more people learned what you've been able to teach people, what you've been able to teach me, I think it would be a better world.
Aw,
Yeah.
yes. Yes. Well, I agree. And I am so grateful and proud of you as well for stepping up for yourself and your people and the world in this way, because you're so right. It does make a big difference and has a ripple effect into the people we love's lives and out into the world. So, well, thank you so much, Luanne. I'm sure that your being here today is inspiring to many other sensitive women. So thank you so much for spending this time with me.
Thank you.
And to all of you out there listening, by the time you actually hear this episode, Luanne will have gotten married. So let's send her lots of love and congratulations and wishes for a truly fulfilling, loving life together. But she doesn't need our wishes because she knows how to create that and maintain it with her now husband. And if you also want to create that, if you also want a marriage that you truly enjoy and a future that you look forward together with your honey, now is the time to sign up for Treasured. We start in mid to late May, so you can start making these really important and healing, hugely positive changes in your life and your relationship really soon. To learn more and join, head over to the show notes for the direct link, or once again, go to www.lifeisworthloving.com/treasured. And be oh so well, my friends.